No lie, I was sitting here talking and never actually hit the record button. Classic. There is a mystery that took place in the 20s. 30s? 20s? 30s. Dang! And of course the husband did it, but did he or didn't he? And where is she? And what happened? And all of that. Now, this is too much background. The next two books I have are Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. Today's video is going to be a book recommendations video, and I thought for the first time I would give a go to one of these, like if you liked this book, maybe give this book a go, because I love getting recommendations out of that, and obviously it goes both ways. So if the first book I pick up isn't one you've read, but you've read the second book, you guys all know how this works because this is a big thing on BookTube. So I'm gonna give that a go today. And I know we are all basically stuck inside our homes right now, with the exception of grocery stores and basically hopefully being able to get out for a little bit of exercise and some fresh air. But hoopla's out there. Libby is my version of Overdrive through my library. I heard a rumor, which I need to check on, should have done it before I filmed this video, that Kindle might be free, or Kindle audio might be free for a month if you're a Prime member. And then obviously we can order books, and obviously a whole bunch of us have a whole bunch of books in our bookshelves. So hopefully people are finding some comfort in reading. I am happy to say I'm in a really good reading groove right now. I'm knocking on my wood floor. I am currently reading a middle grade March book called Gallery, and I am also listening to The Last Affair by Margot Hunt on Hoopla, so I feel like I'm in a good spot right now. I'm hoping that stays true. I'm also trying to focus on doing some editing. There is an option that I think I'm going to take to submit the first 35 pages of my manuscript for a critique through one of the organizations I'm a part of, so I'm trying to focus on all of those things. But you guys are here for book recommendations, so let's just get into those. I'm gonna rip off the Band-Aid and do my favorite book first so we can get it out of the way. And it's, if you liked Gone Girl, I highly, highly recommend The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, and vice versa. So let me start here, and sorry, this is glaring from the windows. So Nick and Amy Dunn are married, fifth wedding anniversary morning, Amy goes missing. And this is an investigation into Nick. Where is Amy? What happened? And we see this in present day through Nick's point of view, and then we see this in Amy's point of view through diary entries that she wrote before she went missing. So I think everybody on the planet knows Gillian Flynn. I think everybody on the planet knows this book. If you are one of those people who haven't read it, I still highly recommend this to the nth degree. I also recommend rereading it. I've reread it a bunch of times and it just keeps getting better to me. But the core of it is unlikable characters, not quite sure what's going on, sort of a dysfunctional marriage is what you kind of find out from it. And then The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson is also multiple character point of views, a super dysfunctional marriage in the sense that our main characters meet at the airport in London, and their flight is, I don't know why I'm Ted and Lily, I should have looked. They don't know each other. They're strangers when they meet in the airport. Their flight's been delayed, so they're having a couple cocktails at the bar and just start chatting and kind of talking about their lives. And Ted's mentioning how his wife is having an affair and he's just not happy about it, obviously. And Lily kind of says to him, like, you should kill your wife and let me help you. And they fly back to Boston, and that's the first chapter of the book, and it kind of takes off from there. So both of these books have totally unlikable characters, people doing really horrible things, people thinking really horrible things, like murder your wife, wife is missing, and I couldn't love them more. I think they are twisted, I think they are twisty, both really well written. These were both the first books I read by each of these authors, and it made me fall in love with both of them. I have since read all of Gillian Flynn. I am working my way through Peter Swanson and just highly recommend both. Can't go wrong. The next two books I want to recommend are another trope I love, which is our heroine having to return to her small town, even though she doesn't want to go back there, and she left for a reason, and coming back forces her to confront a whole mess of secrets and a whole mess of history and a whole mess of baggage that she doesn't want to deal with. But she does, because that's the book. And the first one is All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. And this book is brilliant in multiple ways. The first being that it's actually told in reverse, which I have never seen done before, and I don't think I've ever seen done since. So in this book, Nicolette has to return to her hometown because her dad is sick, and she left, I want to say maybe like 15 years ago, and it was basically because her best friend, Corinne, had gone missing and was never found, was never solved, sort of a whole mess of stuff that happened at the time. And now Nick is back in town. She's got like a fiance in Philly, she's got a good life, and coming back into town sort of resurrects all these old emotions and memories, including seeing her ex, Tyler, who is dating someone new, of course, because it's like years and years later, so that's totally fine. But what's not fine is then his current girlfriend winds up going missing. And it's sort of reminiscent about what happened to their friend Corinne all those years ago. So everything comes back up to the surface. But this is told, I want to say Nicolette's there for like 15 days. So it starts on day 15 and you start to go backwards. It's insane. Like, it's so good. It's so clever. And then my rec, if you liked it like this, is Girls Like Us by Christina Alger. And this book is, she is an FBI agent who is on leave. And Nell winds up having to go home to Long Island because her father has passed away, and her dad is a police detective, and she's back there just trying to kind of deal with some old stuff, and she's been gone for a while, and her mom had passed away years ago, was murdered, so she didn't actually pass away. And there's always sort of been some mystery around that. And then in the present day, there are some murders taking place, and it was an investigation her dad was working on, and she obviously knows all the other cops because they're friends of her dad's, and they kind of ask a little bit for her help. So she winds up investigating this murder in the present day, and it doesn't link necessarily to the past, but there's a murder that takes place in the past, which is one of my favorite things. Much like this book, what's backwards and upside down? There is a mystery in the past and a mystery in the present, so both tropes I love. So again, back to the small towns, having to confront old secrets, having to deal with a new crime that takes place. Love them both. The next two books I have are YA books, and I would say that if you enjoyed Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, you will wholly enjoy A Study in Charlotte by Brittany Cavallaro. So these are both fabulous, strong-minded female detectives, and there are sort of past and present elements to both of them as well. So we'll start here because this is the one that I read first. So Truly Devious is a story about a girl named Stevie who goes to this elite boarding school called Ellingham up in Vermont, and she wants to go for one reason, and that's because back in the 30s there was a kidnapping / murder that took place, and it was the headmaster's wife and daughter were kidnapped, and then it sort of evolved into like all sorts of really bad stuff happened. And he received a ransom note that was signed Truly Devious. And the case was solved, but always extremely questionable. And Stevie basically, she's obsessed with all true crime, all sorts of mystery, but this case in particular kind of like has a bee in her bonnet, and she wants to figure it the heck out. So she goes there, and then of course something happens in the present day as well. So we've got present day murder and past, and she's got this great sort of surrounding cast of characters, and it's fellow students and people who work at the school, and we see both timelines. So we see things play out in the 30s, and then we also see things play out in present day. So super fun there. And then A Study in Charlotte is the great granddaughter, I always have to think this through, of Sherlock Holmes, and the great grandson of John Watson, Jamie Watson. And they wind up meeting also at an elite boarding school, this one in Connecticut. And what's great about this is all of the history and story of Holmes and Watson and Moriarty are true in this book. So all those cases are real, all of those people are real, the lineage has been created for this book. But you've got sort of past cases and sort of influences in the present day. But basically they are not friends, they have not met before, they meet at the boarding school, and a fellow student is murdered and they are both considered the top suspects. So they wind up having to partner up to clear their name. And this is at times dark, complicated. I love Charlotte, I love Jamie. She is not sort of like this plucky young thing who like the world is all sunshine and rainbows. She's got some issues, she's got some baggage. Both of them obviously, like I said, have quite the lineage. There are issues with their families, siblings, all of it. It was so much more than I expected. I kind of thought it was going to be like a light, easy breezy read. And it was so much more than that in all the best ways. So I loved it. I have read 3 of the books in this series of the 4, and I have read 2 of the 3 in this one. So it's going to happen. I just don't own the final books in either series, and that's the only reason I haven't read them yet, because I'm still in the buying ban. But truly devious, Study in Charlotte, can't go wrong here either. Before I dive into the next 2 books, I would say if you enjoy Agatha Christie in any way, shape, or form, both of these books will work for you. And the first one I picked is actually Agatha Christie / Sophie Hanna being Agatha Christie's Closed Casket. And a few years ago, Sophie Hanna was given permission to continue the Poirot series through Agatha Christie's team, family, people who own her name and likeness. I'm probably saying all of that wrong, but this was fun, and it honestly felt like you're reading an Agatha Christie novel. And basically Poirot is invited to this countryside house by this famous author, and she's kind of predicting that murder is going to happen, and he's not quite sure why. She's sort of almost willing it to happen, and he wants to be able to stop what happens. So sort of typical Christie in that sense. You've got a house full of people, you have a dead body, and Poirot is trying to figure out who done it. So it's all the trappings of an Agatha Christie in all the best ways. And what is also sort of a fun sidebar about this book, if you're into fun sidebars, is Sophie Hanna actually has a connection to AJ Finn, aka Dan Mallory. And if you guys remember, because how could you not, all of the chaos that surrounded Dan Mallory when sort of all those things came out about him, about things he lied about, and sort of how he kind of like duped everybody about everything and told a whole crazy string of lies throughout his entire career. There's character in this that I would say is kind of loosely based on him, which she has admitted in interviews, which is just sort of a fun little sidebar. But if you enjoyed this book in any way, shape, or form, or you enjoy any kind of Agatha Christie's, I also think you cannot go wrong with Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz.
I feel like this is going to be a little choppy editing, so sorry about that, but I started to give away something, so I needed to go backwards. But
my recommendation is Magpie Murders by Anthony Horowitz. And this is a very kind of like Agatha Christie-esque book, but one of the great things about it is present day. We've got this very famous mystery author who writes this very famous mystery series, and he has submitted his manuscript to his editor at the agency, and she hunkers down to read the book. And then what happens is we start reading the book that he wrote. So it's a book within a book, which is great. But in present day, there is also a mystery that's going on, and you're sort of figuring out both the mystery that's taking place in the book and how it connects to the mystery that's taking place in the present day outside of the book. So it's extremely clever. It's extremely big, but it is well worth the read. And Anthony Horowitz has written, he has sort of the authority or the approval to use the Sherlock Holmes likeness, and he wrote the book Moriarty, and he did Masterpiece Mystery, he did Foyle's War. He's had a bunch of books since this. This book came out a few years ago. I remember being at a writing conference, and this was like the top recommended book by every panel at the time. And it was one of those books that people were like, I'm not even going to try and describe it to you. You just have to go into it and read it. So I feel the same way. It was really, really good. Like, I really enjoyed it. This is a book I passed on to my dad when I was done with it. So Agatha Christie fans, I think you can't go wrong with either of these. To lighten things up a little bit in the land of contemporary, I have 2 books that revolve around friends from college reuniting and all the sparks that fly when they get back together. So the first book, which I have talked about here before, is The Romantics by Galt Niederhofer. And this is a group of friends who reunite for the wedding of two of the people in the group of friends. And they all went to college together. It's 7 of them. And back in college, the 2 that were dating are not the 2 who are getting married, but you've got all sorts of sort of rivalry and competition and old secrets and old love and current love affairs and just all of it. And this takes place over the matter of a couple of days leading up to the wedding. There is a lot of drinking. There's a lot of stuff that happens. There's a lot that's said, but it is so well done. I just absolutely loved it. I thought the exploration of the friendships was authentic, and it just like hit me in all the best places. And this is a book that I reread in 2019 as part of my reread challenge, and I loved it just as much the second time around. Also a wonderfully well done movie, I would say, with Katie Holmes and Josh Duhamel and Adam Brody and Malin Ackerman, and just can't go wrong with this. And if you liked that, I highly recommend you check out In 20 Years by Alison Wynne Scotch. And this is about a group of friends who went to Penn together. They all shared a house, and sort of the ringleader of their group who kept everyone together is a girl named Bee, and she passed away years ago. And after Bee's death, the whole friend group kind of fractured, and they decide to get together in the house they used to live in on the weekend of what would have been Bee's 40th birthday. And they all come together, and it's the same thing where you've got sparks and old loves and old hates and old rivalries and things that were never said and coping with things that were said, and just sort of everything brought back up to the surface. Secrets. These are people who haven't been in touch in a while, so there's just so much they're trying to relearn about each other. I kid you not, both of these books made me cry. Both of these books made me want to call every friend I've ever had since college. And they're just beautifully well done books. I think it's more of a sentimental read in a lot of ways, which I'm not mad about having any of that right now. But there was so much I could relate to in these books, and I just thought they were so well done. I don't hear anybody talk about Alison Wynne Scotch, which pains me because I've read a whole bunch of her books and I really enjoy her as a writer. I think she's great, she's gifted. Just beautiful stories about friendships and relationships and all of the complications. But both of these books, extremely well done. And if you are not a mystery fan or looking for a break from mysteries, these are 2 possibilities that you could check out. The next 2 books are about dysfunctional marriages also. So Gone Girl, Kind Worth Killing, I think relate to each other, but if you liked either one of those books, you'll probably enjoy these books as well, as depressing as it is. But the first book is Lie to Me by J.T. Ellison, and this is a little bit Gone Girl-esque in that we have a married couple, named Sutton and Ethan, which I should have looked at, and they are both writers. They work and live at home, and one morning Ethan comes down for breakfast and Sutton's not there, and she's not in her office, and her car's there, and her keys are there, and her wallet's there, and her purse is there, but she's just nowhere to be found. And of course we call the police and we call the friends and we're trying to figure out what's going on, and everybody looks at Ethan, and of course the husband did it, but did he or didn't he, and where is she, and what happened, and all of that. So there is suspicion, there are friends, there's a little bit of police detective going on in here. You're not quite sure what to believe, and it just takes us on a nice twisty ride. This is the first J.T. Ellison I read and I loved it. And similarly, we have The Marriage Lie by Kimberly Bell. And in this book, Iris and Will have been married for 7 years. Happy, all sorts of good stuff, no problems here. And he's hopping on a flight to Florida for a business trip, does them all the time, see you soon. And then at the same time that morning, there's a flight going to Seattle that winds up crashing. And Iris gets the call that her husband Will has died on the flight to Seattle. But she's like, no, my husband was going to Florida. But he's on the manifest to Seattle. And she cannot find him, and she cannot get in touch with him. And she has to cope with the fact that she didn't know the man she was married to at all. So you've got husbands and wives looking into secrets, looking into their spouses, people looking into them and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. They were both really good mysteries, really good twists. I just sort of flew through both of them. These were, again, first books, which is, I feel like maybe that's a video I should do. First books I read by either one of these authors that turned me onto both of them as well. But really good. Not as dark and twisted, I would say, as Gone Girl and The Kind Worth Killing are. So maybe like a lighter version of that, but still people doing bad things. The next two books might be a little bit of a stretch, but stick with me on this one. So, if you read All the Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Clayfoth, I think you might like Never Tell by Ella Fair Burke. So, bear with me for a minute. All the Beautiful Strangers is a book about a girl named Charlie who is in a boarding school up in Vermont, and she is basically pledging a secret society. And in the course of pledging the secret society, she starts to learn things about her family. And the thing with her family is her mom disappeared, I think it's like 8 or 10 years ago, just like gone in the night, vanished without a trace. No one's heard from her since. And Charlie has always, understandably, wondered what happened to her mom. And we get this in multiple perspectives. So we get Charlie's perspective in the current day. Then we get her mother's perspective leading up to the day that she goes missing. And then we get the perspective of when her parents first met years and years ago. So we get 3 different timelines in this, tying together one giant family story. And I just thought it was great. I have said this before, Charlie is one of my favorite characters. This was such an unexpected pleasure of a book. I picked it up partly because of the boarding school thing, because it's me, and partially because I thought the cover was super pretty, because it's me. But this exceeded all expectations. But you know I love sort of a mystery that surrounds anything boarding school, that kind of a deal. So again, it's a stretch, but we're gonna do it anyway. So in Never Tell, which is more police procedural murder investigation, we have students from Kasdan Prep School, which is a prep school in Manhattan. And sort of in the opening pages, I want to say she's like the popular girl at school, is basically found dead in her bathtub in her parents' townhouse. And obviously there's a mystery to be solved. And in this one, the police detectives get called in, but they wind up digging into the student, her friends, the prep school, people involved in that. This is like wealthy Upper East Side Manhattan kind of stuff. So kind of like, not light like Gossip Girl, but that world, I would say, in a lot of ways. And this is also, full disclosure, part of a series, but don't freak out yet, from Ella Fair Burke. This is the first one in the series I read, so I think it's fine. I think you can go, it works as a standalone in the sense that you don't need to know what happened before. It follows Ellie Hatcher, who is the detective, and it is maybe the 4th or 5th book in the series, but I think it's the 4th book in the series. It's fine. It's totally fine. You will have a couple spoilers in the sense that, like, when you go back to the beginning, you figure out, like, maybe she doesn't stay with a certain boyfriend for a while or something like that, but there's no reason that you can't go into this. Obviously, you don't know the characters as well, but they're so well crafted, it's so well done. You guys know I rave about Ella Fair Burke, more so lately it seems, because I just finished another one of her books. But I think it's well written, I think it's a good mystery. This does have more police heavy. This is more Charlie trying to solve the mystery of her family and family history. This is definitely police detective investigation work going on and murder on page 1. So there are differences, but we've got the boarding school, prep school vibe. Charlie also comes from money. Her family, her dad's family is like super well connected and everything. So there's sort of that correlation there. But I know a lot of you guys who watch are not just like straight up, I only read one kind of book. You're like me. So you like your mysteries, sometimes a little bit lighter without police procedural or stuff like that. And sometimes you want to like dig into the case a little bit with the cops. So I think a little stretchy, but I think it's worth the stretch. So that's gonna do it for the first attempt at a like this, like that kind of a video. And I will be honest, I liked trying to find books on my shelf that were similar to each other beyond just sort of the typical, I like a boarding school book, or I like an unreliable narrator kind of a book. So I would love to know, A, if you guys liked this kind of a video, and if so, give it a thumbs up so I know, so I can make more of them. And also, if you've read any of these books, or if you have recommendations based on any of these books, clearly these are all books that I thoroughly enjoyed and loved. And I like to read more books that are like them. So if you have other recommendations on those, definitely give me those down below too. So thank you guys for hanging out today, for watching, for spending time with me. Again, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope your friends and family are doing well. The indoor thing is definitely getting a little bit twitchy at this stage of the game, but like I said in my other video, I think if we can stay connected here, there's so much good content out on YouTube right now. I am grateful and impressed, and just we're gonna get to the other side of this. At the end of the day, we're gonna get to the other side of this. We're all gonna be okay. My hearts are with all of you guys right now. So thank you again for hanging out today. Wishing everybody really well, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye everybody.